In section 8.2, we are going to multiply and start to do a little factoring, but we're only going to work with monomial. So a little review before we even start here. We're going to have to recall what that word means. We're going to do just a, go back, take a step back here and just keep our skills alive as we go through it. So we've got x times x. Remember, when we multiply, we add the exponents and we get x squared. 5 times 5 is 25. X squared times x squared would give me x to the 4th. On the next one, remember we take care of our coefficients first. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. X cubed times x to the 1st gives me x to the 4th. And when I multiply, and this is a review again back to linear algebra because we've got to keep those skills through some of the stuff we do here in exponential algebra, I need to distribute this 4 in. 4 times negative x is a negative 4x. 4 times positive 5 is plus 20. Remember, when you multiply, you add the exponents. We're going to be doing some multiplying today. Remember, got to add those exponents up. So a little review of some vocabulary. Remember, a monomial is one term. Okay, so you're going to be multiplied by a monomial, so we're going to have one term up front. It says write 3 different monomials. 2 is a monomial, 4x is a monomial, and 299xy pi cubed is a monomial. They're all one term. Obviously, we're not going to be working with that, but just to know that it is one. And it says to multiply a polynomial by a monomial, we use the distributive property, just like we did right up here. We're just going to recall a few things, that a negative times a negative is a positive. We're going to remember that when we have multiplication with something out front of parentheses, we distribute it in. So let's write down over here what we're doing here. We're going to distribute, which means multiply the 3x in. You might say into what? Into every term. Alright, so we're going to take this 3x and we're going to hop it in, hippity-hoppity, distributive property. We're going to hop it in, and then we're also going to remember up here that when we multiply, we add those exponents. So really, I'm just doing 3 multiplication problems, so it's kind of an easy section because we already should know how to multiply. We've got 3 times 2 is 6, x to the 1st times x squared is x to the 3rd. When I hop it in on the next one, I've got 3x times x is 3x squared, but I've got that negative in there and there's only one of them. So I have a minus 3x squared. I've got 3x times a positive 4, which gives me a positive 12x. You'll notice none of these combine because none of them are like terms. So it's basically just a matter of hopping and multiplying that lead monomial into the other polynomial. So on this one, I'm going to be distributing or multiplying the negative x in. Hippity-hoppity, distributive property. So on the first hop here, I've got a negative times a negative, giving me a positive 4. X to the 1st and an x to the 5th gives me an x to the 6th. On my next hop here, I've got a negative times another negative, giving me a positive 3x to the 1, 2, 3. So make sure you might want to put a little, when you first start these, a lot of times you just put the little 1 in there so you make sure you see it. So it'll be x to the 3rd on that hop. Alright, so that's how we multiply. Go back up to our objectives at the top. That is how we multiply a monomial by a polynomial. So go ahead and try this multiple choice one as if it were like on a final exam or something. And again, I'd pause the video and see if you did it right and then hit play again. I've got a negative times a positive, which gives me a negative, B's out. Honestly, that's how I do multiple choice tests. I might as well not go through all the work if I can find the answer on step 4 out of 7. So I'm just going to kind of hop that on in and walk my way to the correct answer. I've got a negative times a negative, which is a positive, and it'll be a 2. x2, though, when we multiply, we add exponents. So it'd be x to the 3 plus 3 is x to the 6th, so you're out. So both of these, and you're out, so it is D, but let's wrap it up here. On my last hop in, I'd have a negative 7x cubed, and there I am with option D. So hopefully you did that one right. I made a more difficult one here because I've got subtraction from last section, and I've also put in some monomials out front, here, and right here, from this section. And I'm also I have some combining of like terms to do. So I've got a lot of different skills going on in this next simplification. So let's just do one at a time. First thing I'm going to do is hop U in. Now, be really careful with what you hop in on this next one. I like to hop it from the sign, so I realize I've got a negative going in there. This also has a negative out front. It's really a -1. We'd like to think of it that way. So let's go do all those hops, and then we'll clean it up. P times 3p is 3p squared. P times -5 is -5p. You're done. All right? I've got a negative 2p times p, giving me a negative 2p squared. I've got a -2 times a negative 2p, times a -4, which gives me a positive 8p. On the last one, I've got a minus, technically 1 times p, which is a -p. I like to just think of just subtracting it. And then I'm subtracting 1 right there. So I've got the blue hop, the green hop, and the red all hopped in. And now I'm just going to go combine my like terms. Who goes with this one? My pen, for some reason, isn't working here. I don't know if my smartboard froze. That would be a big bummer. Oh, there we go. So I've got 3p squared minus 2p squared gives me one of those left. So I have 1p squared left there. If you'd like to put that out front, go right ahead. I've got lots of p's. I've got a -5 here. Then I've got +8. So if you're 5 degrees below and you go up 8, you're at 3. So I'm sitting there at 3 p's. But then the green made me remove 1. So I'm at positive 2p and then -1 trailing along the end. Last challenge I'd like you to do is see if you would know how to name that by degree and by number of terms. Degree and number of terms. And you should write that down, and you should be writing quadratic, trinomial. All right, so the next one up is a word problem. The word problems in this chapter are primarily geometry based. So let's go take a look at this one. I've got a wood frame. It is measuring 5x by 7x plus 1. It says draw and sketch, I already did, and then write an expression for the perimeter. Now this is different. You might say base times height. That's area. Perimeter is like when you put a fence on the perimeter of your lawn. If you went to order fence, you'd just say, well, how much do I need for that, and that, and that, and you'd add it all up. All right, so we need to go around that and add it all up. So let's go do that. Perimeter would be 5x, but what you might want to do instead of doing 5x plus 5x, some people might say, well, there's 2 of them and they're the same, so they might say it's 2 times 5x. Either way, you're going to get a 10x. Then I've got plus. Maybe instead of saying 7x plus 1 and another 7x plus 1, you might want to say I have 2 7x plus 1s. Either route is going to give you the right answer. That gives me 10x's plus hippity-hoppity distributive property, 14x plus 2. I end up with 24x plus 2. That is an expression for the perimeter. Now, again, we're going to tie in some linear algebra from last year. It tells me what the perimeter is. It says, you know it's 74 inches. So I know that when I take that expression, I need to set it equal to 74. How do I solve that? Well, see if you remember. I pause the video and finish that up, and then restart it. You should have subtracted 2, leaving you 24 times x is 72. You should do the division by 24, giving you an x is equal to 3. If this process right here you are not comfortable with, or you think you've never seen it before or something like that, you need to talk to me, because that's what was covered in a lot of your 8th grade curriculum. And if you came from another district or something like that, you might not have had that. So make sure you let me know if that process right there is unfamiliar to you. It says now write an expression for the area of the frame. Well, how do I get area of a rectangle? I do its base times its height. my smartboard is squiggly here. So I do its base times its height. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing the entire base times the entire height. So I need to lock that and load it in a set of parentheses so I make sure I'm multiplying it all. Then I hippity hop it in, and I get 35. Technically, because it just says an expression, I could leave it like that, but let's simplify it. 35, x to the first times x to the first is x to the second, and then I'd have a plus 5x. Expression for the area versus expression for the perimeter. All right. On our next page here, it's a little formative quiz, and so let's see what we've got here. Maybe what you ought to do with this, I think it's hard to do these when you are doing them by a video, but I would stop and I would take these, and if they're not in your note packet, write them down and see how you do with it, and then correct your mistakes, okay? I am going to just go do them, but pause the video and you go do these two and have a little quick assessment of how you're doing, all right? Here we go. What do we get? We've got addition. It's always important to look at that operation because subtraction requires distributive property, whereas addition, I mean, technically you could distribute that in, but it doesn't change anything because plus y to the fifth is plus y to the fifth. Plus positive 6y squared is plus 6y squared. Plus a negative y is really a subtraction of y. That's not changing anything. So with addition, we get to pretend those parentheses aren't there and just go combine our like terms. 4y to the fifth plus 1 more gives me 5y to the fifths. Notice I didn't put a 10 here. I don't add exponents. Sorry. Yeah, I don't add the exponents on that when I am doing an addition problem. I'm combining them together. I have 4 of them plus 1 more of them gives me 5 of them. I've got a 6y squared where if I want to not have to rewrite my answer, I should put that next. I've got a minus y and then another minus y. Those don't cancel. It's 1 in the hole, and in addition, I'm going 1 more in the hole. I'm 2 in the hole. And then I've got a plus 3, and I'm taking away 2 for a plus 1. Subtraction, you have to pause and show a little more work because I really highly suggest you physically take your pen, you hop it in, and if it's just 1 negative, you leave it negative. If it's 2, you make it positive. Now combine your like terms. That leaves me 1x squared plus 6x. And then I'd have a plus 1. And then I'd even challenge you right now to name that based on its degree. Second degree gets a special name. Do you remember what it is? Not page back in your notes. And number of terms. Kind of like number of wheels. So we've got a quadratic, 3 terms, 3 wheels, tricycle, trinomial. And that's the end of this lesson, I believe. Let me go check here. Yes, it is. All right, so I am going to